Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm the TMax. I make videos about language, culture, and travel. And I've been living in Brazil for about 3 months, and these are just 10 observations that I have made about culture here in Brazil. The Brazilians love corn. If you go to any party or festival or any holiday here, a majority of the foods are going to be corn-based. Makes sense, they grow corn here, but they love corn. It reminded me of when I was in Peru, and the Peruvians are like, we have 3,000 types of potatoes, and we put potatoes inside of our potatoes and season it with potatoes. That's how the Brazilians are with corn. The Brazilians love telenovelas, soap operas. I mean, it used to be a national thing that you could get a day off of work whenever there was a series finale for whatever the most popular soap opera was at the time. And I don't think they continue to do that now, but most people in Brazil have either heard of or watched some sort of telenovela. And there used to be a show, I'm not sure if it still exists, called Vale a Pena Ver de Novo, which means it's worth seeing again. And the show literally was just a recap of all the soap operas that had been airing that week, kind of like a sports center for soap operas. And now that I've been living here for a few months and I've been buying things, everyday items like clothes and food and just things that you might need around the house, you can find for super cheap. But anything that's brand name, like an iPhone or something that comes from another country, it's going to be more expensive than it would be if you purchased it in that country. So I've seen this also when I lived in China. Normal things are way cheaper than they would be in the US, but then US things are more expensive there than they would be in the US. So you have this weird dynamic where they're on both extremes, way cheaper and also way more expensive. And Brazil has this wonderful thing called a technology tax, which makes every piece of tech 60 to 70% more expensive than it would be if you bought it somewhere else. Which is why very few people buy things here, or they buy them on a special market from other countries or from friends or secondhand, because Brazil has the most expensive iPhone in the world. It's just this technology tax that they put on top of all tech that just makes the prices outrageous. In my experience here, when it's a social event like a party or a festival or concert or something like that, Brazilians are going to show up late. And I don't know why I keep thinking that they won't the next time I plan something with them. They continuously show up late, and I've had this experience because I lived in Spain for years and I adjusted there. I just got used to it and I started showing up late. But here in Brazil, I keep showing up on time for some reason, and I'm the only one there. So in the US, if there's a holiday that falls on a Saturday or Sunday, we normally would get that Monday or that Friday off. Here in Brazil, if it falls on a Saturday or Sunday, that's it. It was just on the weekend, and you don't get a day off from work for that holiday. But it's not such a bad deal because they get 30 days mandatory holiday leave from work. So very much like Europe, they get a lot of vacation, and it's just not something we're used to in the US or in China. And Brazil is a well-known coffee exporter, the biggest in the world, I believe. But in Sao Paulo, for whatever reason, I have not seen the coffee culture that I was expecting. I live in a neighborhood outside the center, and there are barely any cafes in my neighborhood. And even the ones that are there, they don't have the TMax or the AeroPress. They're just not like a coffee culture. They'll sell coffee like out of the machine or whatever, but it's not what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be like Colombia on steroids, because Colombia's coffee culture is intense, and Brazil is a bigger exporter, but maybe they're more about exporting, less about enjoying the coffee here. Or maybe I just haven't found a good place for coffee. If you live in Sao Paulo, or if you've been here and you know where there's some great coffee, let me know. Leave a comment below so I can go enjoy Brazilian coffee culture. With the exception of English, my mother tongue, and Italian, every language that I've learned, I've taken classes to learn that language. And in Portuguese, this is the first time that I've learned a language where the teachers are emphatically teaching you that there's a difference between what we're learning in class, grammar, and how people actually speak, and teaching you both of them simultaneously, because it's very important to know, because if you want to talk to people, you need to know this, and if you want to read a book, you need to know this. So it's almost like two languages. And one thing that I've learned since being here that actually really fascinated me is that the population in Brazil of black people, black-skinned people, is the majority. It's over 50% black here in this country of over 200 million people. And so it got me doing some research and comparing it to the US. Unfortunately, Brazil was the last country in South America to abolish slavery. So maybe they got more slaves from Africa after the other countries stopped slavery, and so maybe that's why their population is so much higher. Maybe, maybe not. But then also just being in the country, you start learning about their history. And in the US, one of our famous historical figures from slavery was Harriet Tubman. And they have a figure here that's super popular. His name is Zumbi, and he even has like a town in the Northeast. And I just thought that was really interesting to start seeing these parallels between the US and Brazil. And then so that got me thinking about the civil rights movement. And in the US, the civil rights movement was mostly in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And what I learned in my research was that the success of the civil rights movement in the US in the 60s spurred the civil rights movements here in Brazil in the 70s. So they started the civil rights movement a little bit later than we did in the US. And with the division of where people live in the US, there's a tendency to have more black populations in the South. And in Brazil, it's the exact opposite. Most of them are in the North. But if you look at the way the globe is, it's technically the same. Black people are just closer to the equator because most of the black people in Brazil live in the Northeast. And then if you go south, southern part of Brazil, you start to find more dominant white populations that are actually descendants from the Germans and Italians who came over after World War II. Quick random research on the internet, I learned all these things. If I go to some museums here, I'm sure I'll learn that as well. And now that I have this knowledge, it would mean much more to see it in a museum. So I just wanted to share these quick observations that I had with you guys. I've just been enjoying my time in Brazil so much and just making notes about everything. And now I just want to start sharing that with all of you out there. And if you like this kind of content, give me a subscribe and a like and share with your friends. And if you have suggestions or comments, feel free to leave them below. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. It's thundering. Thunder. You feel the thunder. Lightning and the thunder. My tour dates are below. I'll be performing.